When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, shape shifting in the night, stalking you. Does my face seem familiar? Does my back tell you more? Will I change you or will it end you? And the power that I have can give you eternal life. Death doesn't know me, I've become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, where the mist, she follows me. I walk alone in the night, watching you, following you, leading on you through the night. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me. All your life I was still, I become the living dead. I own the darkness and no heartbeats inside of me. I become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me.
This could be the end. Okay, folks, welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and this is PRT, as we call it. Yes, Daisy May says, don't forget to hit that like button. Please do. Hit the like button, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Mary D says, wonder why my name is not in green. I guess you're trying to say I'm a Patreon subscriber. Patreon is different than membership. Membership's a $5 thing, and that helps enter you into the giveaway, which we're going to do tonight. And then we're going to be mailing off this coming week for the last several people who've won. So that's going to be coming up. Make sure that when you email us that you give us your correct mailing address and your shirt size, your whatever. And there's Anthony.
Yeah.
We can take you back off.
What?
I don't know. We can still do the same. We can
I'm not ashamed of my nappy hair. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's usually not. But
My hair is just.
If it is, so what? Who cares? Whatever.
Getting time to be
Make fun of me. See how much I care.
So I don't know how many of you watched us do an impromptu live. Of course, we didn't have our good.
Yeah, we didn't have a good flashlight.
We had a good flashlight.
Camera.
The flashlight was dead.
Yeah,
it went dead.
But the reception out there was like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to do it is, like I said, to get one of those Starlink things, because I don't even think that like a mobile hotspot will do it right.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna do some more. Somebody's like Tampa Bay Bucks. Yeah, I've been a Bucks fan since the '90s. It's like the late '90s or something like that. Back when they had Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Derek Brooks, all those guys, Mike Allstott, Keyshawn Johnson. That was my team, man. I mean, I'm still a fan of the Cowboys and the Texans. The Texans, you're not going to go to Super Bowl losing to the Jets on Thursday night. And the Cowboys suck horribly. I will say this, though. I stand by what I say, too. Every time the Cowboys had a chance in the past 20 years or so, I mean, they've been screwed. I mean, the refs do not like them.
No.
The league doesn't like them. And I could make an entire, like, you know, what do you call that, a montage or whatever, of just them getting screwed with bad calls and no calls and just Micah Parsons getting held all the time. I finally just gave up. I know that the league doesn't like us. They don't like Texas. They're not going to let us win. So you just have to be super duper overpowered so that they can't, you know, because it looks bad if they call back multiple touchdowns. And they've done that. But, you know, you have to just kill your opponents. And if you can't do it, then you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So I gave up. I'm done. You know?
There's no winning if you don't annihilate them.
And the Cowboys aren't a good enough team to do that. So they're bad. And Jerry Jones, you know, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about winning. I think he's in cahoots with Goodell. I think Goodell does, you know, he's part of the agenda, which is to not allow Texas to win, Texas teams. There's a reason for that. And I think Jerry Jones, Mr. E.T. face, I think he's okay with that. He thinks as long as he fields a mediocre team, he can still get people to be stupid and buy their merchandise, which you won't catch me wearing it unless they win, and they're not going to under him. And you have to come to the realization that family, in particular Jerry, is just a cancer. And the guy's like 1 million years old. He's never going to unalive.
I thought he was supposed to step back and let his son start running things.
He's never going to do that. He's a sickening ass individual who ran off Jimmy Johnson. And most people can never forgive him for that. I just cannot stand the guy. And, you know, he's one of the big reasons why they have the salary cap, which he's always claiming is reason he can't do this and do that. Well, yeah, because you made it that way. So, you know, you make something and then cry about it, dude, and stop. You know, so the owners got their way and they made the salary cap and then they complain. They pretend like that it bothers them. Now, they're happy because they don't got to pay these players correctly. Baseball's over there like, you know, 4 years, $300 million, you know. And then football, they're sacrificing their bodies and everything, and they're getting peanuts compared to baseball and basketball because of this stupid salary cap. That's just the way it is. I mean, they're the stupid asses that let them do it. Why they let them do that, I have no idea. It's dumb. So, Chris, thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. So we got the election coming up. Super Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
The big deal. We have a lot of stuff going on in our lives, but our private lives are just a mess right now. We're trying to get things done and still doing the show. As you know, we try to let the chat fill up, get to about 300, and then we'll start dealing with the information that we got, the stories that we have going on. Not the least of which was we wanted to rehash one of the stories that was given to us. And look at this. I'm still getting these political messages from both sides, still asking for money. What would money at this point do?
Dude, I've gotten like hundreds of those, and every single time I get them, I reply stop to unsubscribe.
Here it is right here.
And I still keep getting them.
7 times match, save Pennsylvania, Taylor Swift, plus Kamala stunner, Trump's fuming. And then they ask you basically to send money. How is it? Right now, I'm going to be real honest. I'm not just saying this because I hate them, but that side is continuing to bulldog, trying to get money. How is giving them money 2 days before the election going to help anything? Help me, Dominion. You're my only hope.
Yeah,
exactly. Dude, please go get F.
The way they word those messages too is so like it's like insulting my intelligence, because they try to like word it to where you're supposed to believe that this is a personal message from the presidential candidate or from the senator. You know, Ted Cruz needs you. You know, Kamala Harris, Trump is counting on you.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. This is an automated message sent by a bot.
You're going to win the election by giving them $50. I mean, you know, and this is very important. Thank you for that donation, Alan Hell. This is a very important election. I'm not going to get political on the show tonight, but I'm telling you, man, this is it. I mean, you know, RFK told you, a true Democrat. He told you what to do. These other people, man, oh man. If you really knew the depths of the evilness, the things that I know, people we've talked to, we can't even put these people on YouTube. There have been a couple people who've reached out to us over the last 6 months, and they wanted to talk, and they wanted us to interview them, and we were going to do it on Rumble. And then we as a team, we decided not to, because the information that they would be giving could possibly be a threat to us. Right? I mean, we are not, I'm not in the business of putting my family at risk. That's why I left that house. So tonight we were going to talk about the house and some of the things that went on in that house, or as much as we could, but we're not all living together right now. So we don't, you know, it was just me, Nelly, and Anthony Tony. And Stefan moved out, you know, back in August, at the end of August, because of, you know, this place is messed up. Can't say I blame them, you know, but you know, there were some things. We're still friends with him, by the way. We're not like enemies or anything. We're not on bad terms. He's a good kid. I don't have a problem with him. But you know, we need to get together and be able to sit down and talk about everything all together, and not just, you know, go in different directions, you know, so we haven't even had the chance to do that. We're trying to get a house and in town, and they have made us jump through a million hoops. And then once we climb one mountain, then they're like, okay, climb this bigger mountain. And we're like, wow. We almost gave up.
It's like
Friday night, we were just so disheartened. We were like, you know what? I give up. We're not going to do it.
What's his name? Sisyphus keeps pushing the boulder up the hill.
I don't know who Sisyphus is. What is that?
What's the name of the guy?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
You're acting like you don't.
I really don't.
There's a lot. This is right up your alley of stuff that you would know.
Well, for some reason, I'm drawing a blank with Sisyphus. Who the hell is that? Look him up.
He pushes the boulder up the hill only for it to roll back down.
Who is this
Just
guy?
like for eternity.
Is this Egyptian? Well, I don't know everything.
Yes, you
dude.
do. Okay.
Yes, you
obviously
do.
you don't
Come
know
on.
everything,
Jeez.
but you know damn well who Sisyphus is. It's a guy in Greek mythology.
Tell us who he is.
I just did. You know, you're acting like you don't
What
know.
does it say on there?
You are like you are like the worst person I've ever seen at acting stupid because you're so far from stupid that like acting stupid just like it's like
I
so
can act
it's
any way I
so
want, sir.
foreign to you that you're terrible at it.
I can act any way I want.
You can try.
Whatever.
Don't let him fool you. He can spend the next
It's
hour
folks. It's not
telling you
it's
about
not
Greek
Sisyphus,
mythology.
It's Sisyphus. Okay. So I
Well,
don't know
then
who the
there you
hell
go.
Who the hell Scipio?
Well,
Sisyphus.
Okay, so you knew. There you go.
I don't know Sisyphus.
You just proved my point.
I don't know Sisyphus. Who is? It's like, what is juice? What is? I don't know what juice is. I know purple drink. Let's see here, Sisyphus. Let's look up Sisyphus because that's who he's talking about. I don't know who this other guy is.
It's the same guy. I just said
No,
his
it's
name
not.
wrong.
That's two different people. Who
You
is
knew
that?
the moment it came out of my mouth that that's who I was talking about.
See, here's Sisyphus is a figure from Greek mythology.
Okay, Sisyphus,
who was punished
Sisyphus,
for
whatever.
trickery by being condemned to roll a boulder up a hill in
Tomato,
the underworld
tomato.
for eternity. Each time the boulder neared the top, it would roll back down, forcing Sisyphus to start again.
Dude, look at this crap. I just got one while we're on air. I got one of these stupid political messages.
Who's it from?
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
Well, some bot that claims that Ted Cruz needs me personally.
To pay him to win an election.
Without me, he can't win. He's gonna lose.
What do they do with all that money left over?
Whatever the hell they want, like always.
Exactly. Then they lose the election. Oh, darn. But hey, at least I got $285 million. I don't know if they win that much or they get that much, but they definitely get a lot. So we did this, you know. Oh, and my shirt shelling out the pain right there. You can't see the bottom. Let me see. You can't take the Josh Turner off of there. But it says here, shelling out the pain. It's shelling out the hurt. I'm very proud of this shirt because that's what it does. Okay. It's my man Bowser, and he's shelling out the hurt because there's a lot of people who act like it physically hurts them for me to be alive and on the air.
Probably does.
I mean, they're so ridiculous. They're claiming that they gave me gout, and
They're probably like so mentally neurotic that just seeing you on the air, they're so mentally ill, like they're so far gone that it actually causes a psychosomatic effect where they feel physical pain just from seeing you because their mind is so fried.
I think it does. They have a derangement syndrome. They're mentally deranged. They're ill.
I see you're mentally ill. I'm going to need you to go ahead and stop right now. Just cut it out. Knock it off.
That's not going to happen. Mimi P says, why does the membership not pop up for me? I don't think it's a recurring thing. I think you got to buy it every month.
Yeah.
You probably have to renew it or whatever.
I mean, I
We
think
don't have it set to keep it going, do we? I don't think. I don't know.
I think you can pick and choose like how many months of a membership you want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that one. Chitilling.
Oh yeah.
So what we're going to talk about tonight is Dogman. That's what the title's about, and this is just Dogman. I mean, there might be some other things that'll be thrown in there, but this is what the show is about tonight. And I have some encounters to bring you. Some odd ones. I don't know that we'll get to all of them. And we have some really weird encounters to talk about. Obviously, because of the election going on Tuesday, we're not going to drop a show and have to make you choose between trying to figure out who's going to destroy the country, or who's, whatever, in us. So we're not going to put a show out on Tuesday, but we're hoping to put a show out on Wednesday. So feel free to like and subscribe. Send your personal stories and experiences to Josh Turner at prt.podcast.com. Join the Patreon, because starting, what is the Thursday after the middle of the month? What Thursday would that be? We got to put a date on there.
Thursday after the middle of the month?
Yeah, it's Thursday we had talked about. It's
What, the 14th?
Yeah, no. It's going to be the Thursday after. So Thursday, November 21st, okay, which is the week before Thanksgiving, we are going to do Patreon discussion.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Patreon only, okay? I'm not going to just tell stories that I won't tell. I mean, I might, but I'm not going to put anything there that you won't hear or whatever. But this will be a Q&A where the Patreon members can interact with me directly. And it's a lot easier for you, if you're a Patreon member, to be heard and interact, because it's a lot smaller audience.
Personal interaction becomes a lot easier.
Personal interaction, yes.
You'll get more attention.
Yeah, and you can ask questions. I mean, I expect the first one may not even have but 20 people, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't care. We have 100 and something people, whatever, but we'll put some people in there. So if you're not a Patreon member, that's another reason to join, besides getting the wonderful swag bags and getting another swag bag every 6 months with the new merchandise. So there's lots of reasons to join. Okay. And we're not hiding anything behind a paywall, but we have to do something for the Patreon, because they're paying money to support the show, folks. And I know that not everybody has money. There's people that are absolutely not doing good. They're broke because this economy sucks. And so it's hard for people to give donations. I understand that. So we have to make up for it by putting some more ads on the shows. That's unfortunate, but we had some smarmy ass people in the chat, in the comment section, saying, "Yeah, well, deal with it. Put you more ads." Well, that's what we did. Thank you for the advice, because we have no way to make the revenue, folks. Anytime we do the show, I have to spend hours disseminating this information and talking to these witnesses. Then on top of that, I have to come out and do the show, which takes hours. People think that we just come out here and it's like an hour here, an hour there, and then 2-3 hours on it, whatever. That's not how this works. That is not. It takes a lot. Okay. And then if I'm able to, I have to go out and investigate these spots. Now, I don't go around claiming to be boots on the ground, but we do. I just, when I was writing the book, I realized that I do a lot of boots on the ground, because we do go to all the spots that we can reach in Central Texas in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Our main focus is Central Texas, because there's so many of these stories that have come out. Now, I'll tell you what's weird. Since they started building Samsung out there, somebody had told me, well, I bet you there's not going to be as many sightings of weird stuff now. It is doubled. Mm-hmm. Because whatever they did out there and what they're doing out there, they have riled up something. I think they disturbed something. That is my opinion. I can't prove it.
That plant takes up so much land.
So much land, and then they've driven whatever it is out into the, so they're going into other areas. Mm-hmm. So at the 11th hour, yesterday, well, I wouldn't say yesterday, before I went to sleep, when I didn't go to bed till 10 this morning, because I had to do a bunch of rigmarole we're in a situation where, I don't know if you've ever closed on a house and you have to, you like they're doing a credit rescore so that they can get it higher, so that I pay less, whatever, And so I can't touch my credit cards, and then the money that's in the bank I have to use for the down payment. So we're like at people's mercy. Like, hey, we're friends. Can you feed us?
Yeah.
This is not easy. So I had to figure out a way to pay the bills today, and that took 3-4 hours to figuring it all out, so that we could find that balance. And we're also in the process, though, of selling our land in another place, which will help give us some breathing room. But our business has gone way down. And that's a direct cause and effect, too, because since 2020, it's been a slow death with one of our companies that we work with, which sucks because they are government subsidized housing. So these people that claim that they're for the people, as soon as they got in there, it just started to go down. At any given time, we had 6 to 8 accounts with them. Now we have 2, and there's nothing coming on the horizon. So we have just had to redirect and go in another direction, which is what you do. You adapt, and we have. But there's pain that comes with that, of just switching directions. And so we have switched it up, and we're moving in other directions, and it will be okay. I think by March things will be okay. But man, this last administration really kicked our ass bad. I mean, I wouldn't vote for nothing in the world because of what they've done. The economy now, inflation is at up 22% since 2020. Can you believe that?
Mhm.
Who the hell wants to pay, $12 for some eggs? I don't understand how people can sit there and not know.
I mean, really, at that point, your social whatever stances on stuff don't even matter. It's like, what does it matter what you think about immigration or LGBT, whatever the hell, if you're broke? I mean, you don't have you have no way to make ends meet, and you're over here talking about transgender. When you
What happened?
I just said a bunch of stuff, but then like when you mute that camera, it mutes my microphone
No,
too.
I didn't mean to do that. So Anthony was talking away. Well, you know what?
I don't want to
Fine.
repeat it.
Yeah,
It's probably just gonna get us demonetized
be
anyway.
controversial. So let's just not even. I was thinking that when you said it. But the bottom line is this, folks: use common sense. Do you like inflation? Do you want to end up, as communists? That's up to you, because that's where we're headed with all of this. That's their goal. And those people lie.
No, it's just a bad timing. Like, because like the way StreamYard's set up is like if you mute, if he turns off his camera or mutes it or whatever, then it mutes like the mics for both of us. It's just like a thing with the setup. I'm gonna try and get it to where we can use StreamYard, and instead of having like this 2-camera setup, we'll have one person on camera and we can just switch back and forth like we do when we do the other streams that have the live chat on the screen. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I can manage to pull that off.
All right. So And Tony's like, I thought he said 7:30. Well, it's already 7:40. So whatever, dude. You can just text him and tell him to just go to Momo.
Okay.
I mean, he don't need to be here.
Well, we got that. We got Momo and Windsor
Oh, yeah,
covered.
okay. It's all covered. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I personally don't care. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so we got a couple. There's 3 different ones here. So how many of you saw the impromptu live that we did where we were at the old cemetery, that 1830s cemetery? That's where when it originally was being used. Ace, can we talk about Dogman, please? I don't know, man. Can we? You can leave. How about that? You can go to another channel and talk about Dogman. I'm not going to take snarky comments. 0 tolerance for any of your snarky crap. I don't care. I don't care about your opinion. If you don't like it, go. Get out. Because when you act like that, you're just one comment away from being insulting or starting something or running somewhere else and getting something started. I don't need that. I don't need any of that crap in my life. No negativity, dude. 0 tolerance for it.
After all the crap we've been through, we got to be that way.
Yeah, and I don't even care. I mean, I'll walk away from
Just
this.
you got to nip it in the bud.
I mean, this show is not paying my bills, so I'm doing something nice, and I don't need people, smart asses saying things, saying whatever. Go F yourself, dude.
No, Joanne, we
couldn't get the dog.
we couldn't manage to make the dog come to us. He just kept running away. I mean, like we found him again, but he ran out into that field.
So, reason I asked if anybody watched that was because we were driving around Central Texas. All those towns and those little spots are surround Taylor, which is my hometown. Okay, that's why I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of you tuned in. So as soon as we get this situation with the house taken care of, which it's really hard right now, really hard, because we're having to struggle to get money for food right now. And it's really stupid because you can't use your money.
Mm-hmm.
It's and then they make this rule where
it's like you have money, but you can't use it. Then
you have to show this reserve, this huge reserve, and you can't borrow money from a friend to use that. It has to come from like a relative, and it is like they make all these rules and you have to jump through a million hoops. So it is really difficult. What we're going through is very extremely difficult. It's very stressful. So just bear with me. I'm not in the best of moods, but I'm doing what I can. I'm doing my best. But I got 3 different stories that we can talk. There's another one of these political things. Dang. Giving them money now, 2 days before the election, is not going to help. So I don't know what this is. Damn, man, I'm so sick of that. Because damn well it ain't doing anything. You can't ask for money. How me giving you money today and in 2 days going to matter? I mean, so we have. I guess we could just start with the stories from this area. We have a couple of them we could start with.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
And okay, so we were in Noack, which has had its share of weird stuff, sightings of Dogman, things like that. The Lutheran Church off of County Road 112. Okay, I told that story, just like a little bit of it. And I'm going to take you off for just a second, Anthony. So I told that story, just a little bit of it, you know, when we were doing the impromptu live on Friday night, and it was just using our cell phone. Nellie held the phone while I drove, and then we went to some of these places, and we're going to do that a lot more. I'm going to take you to these places. We heard some weird stuff out there in Byersville. We heard this weird. There was a few things we heard that were not animals from that area, and then you had this weird, would sound like a metal door slamming, opening slamming, which kind of concerned me because that's something that people have heard, you know, prior to these cryptid sightings. I don't know if it's everybody or just a few people, whatever, but I mean, not everybody, but like a lot of people or a few people. I've heard some people say it and some people don't. And some people say, nah, we heard it, but we didn't see anything. There was something that was moving the tree above us, but we couldn't see what it was. We shined our lights all through the tree, and there was no rodent or anything. There wasn't something that you could point to and say, oh, there it is. That's what's causing the noise. And then it would stop, and then it would start back up. And then we heard this weird howling noise, it's what sounded like a singular creature. We heard a coyote yipping. We knew what that was. And then we heard a dog. We knew what that was. But the cattle that were across the road should have been making more noise, and they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a minute there, we thought we heard a donkey braying. You know how they bray?
Yeah.
And that was not... It wasn't a donkey because there was an owl too. Yeah, we heard that. But this was like, it sounded like that. But then it was like, when it did it again, it sounded like that mixed with a shriek.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, that's probably not a donkey. I don't know what that is. It just sounds like, I'm going to adjust my seat, move all over the place here. Just get comfortable. So I don't know what that was. I can't tell you. But the area that we were at, okay, is not only has had Dogman sightings, in particular Lawrence Cemetery has had black dog sightings. But then we also get these weird, stories of like Black Panther people. I guess you want to call them people. Would they be people? Black Panther humanoids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get these humanoid sightings of something. I don't know what it is.
Unpeople,
yeah. Not people. Beyond people.
Yeah, yeah, beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond human.
You get these weird encounters. What's up, Tony? And so I don't know.
Hey everybody, sorry I'm late.
What's going on? So yeah, exactly. JFA perfectly said. Hey, Benji, quit, buddy. Bipedal half-man creatures. We went back, and of course, I have archives. Pinch my arm with this. So we have these folders. We have these slots where we put, the information into the computer. So I have all these folders, and then there's these subsets that it goes into. And so I just looked in at the sightings from Central Texas, and I looked up the small towns, each one of them around Taylor. There's a bunch of them, dude, like a lot, especially on Granger Lake, because people give them to me in particular because they're like, hey, you're a weird, you're a weird dude. And you like to tell these people's encounters, so I'll tell you what happened to me. One of the encounters I got now, here's a weird thing. And I would love to go through in depth about this one, because I have another theory too. Like some of these creatures that are being seen, I don't think they're all just people shape-shifting, whatever. I think it could go deeper than that. There are these elven goblin-looking creatures who have been seen during these Dogman encounters. Like, I don't mean right when the Dogman, well, that too, but like there was one where these people, I don't remember exactly, there's been so many stories, but there was one where we got that really disturbed me. I kept thinking about it. You remember, it's not the one where the little thing chased him into the The kids into the station wagon. It was another one, or the SUV, whatever.
Mhm.
You remember when we were eating dinner and that girl said when she was little, she saw that Dogman standing right there by the door. It was when we were at Dos Salsas.
Was I there?
The waitress. I don't remember which one of y'all. I know Anthony was there. You might have been there too. That waitress, Mexican girl, she told us that when she was young, she told me and Nellie, and I thought you were there, Anthony, but I don't know. You might have been there too, Tony, or y'all might have gone to the bar or something. But she was there and she was telling us about seeing one of these creatures when she was a child. You don't remember that?
I don't think
Okay. Well, anyways, we were at another restaurant later on, and this girl just nonchalantly, I don't remember, we were in Houston, and I know you were there for that one.
Mhm.
It was over there by the Astros, where the Astros play.
Mhm.
And we went to eat dinner at this place. It was kind of like a seafood, like a mariscos, And she just nonchalantly said, yeah, I saw this werewolf-looking creature one time, but she said it was off of 290. And she said it was in between Elgin and Manor. And I'm like, oh, wow. She's like, I have cousins that lived in Elgin at that time. They lived on the outskirts. And her and her at that time, husband saw this creature like just run across the road. And it slowed down and almost made them wreck and then ran. So like it was making them have an accident.
Yeah. Trying to run him off the
And
road.
then her husband, she was driving, and the husband was on the phone, and it wasn't that late. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And she said that he looked over and said, there's another one. And so I thought, that's a game. They're trying to make people wreck so they can do whatever it is. A lot of people believe, now this is something that people don't realize. My grandfather's friend, Ralph, used to say, because he saw a Bigfoot across that one bridge that we went across. And we went through there on the other side of Nowak, in between there and Byersville. He said, and this is something he always said, we would talk about Bigfoot, because he believed in Bigfoot because he saw one when I was a kid. Now, he never talked about Dogman, but he said, there's Bigfoot out here. And he said, he goes, they'll try to make you wreck. And then when you wreck, they'll pull you out of your car. This was back in the early 80s, and I was a little kid. I'll never forget. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that. Those early 80s years. I spent a lot of time in Thrall at my grandfather's place. And this guy lived outside of Thrall. And it was crazy. Like he talked specifically about how Bigfoot, it scared the crap out of me as a kid, that they would take people. And that they were vicious, they were aggressive, that they would hit you with sticks and they would attack hunters. And there was a couple that went missing on that county road. Now I got to go and look back and make sure that because he has a granddaughter that's still alive, I can talk to her. Now she's about 10 years older than me, but I know her husband, not real good. But that I know her husband enough. I went to school with him, and he's like, I think he's a few years older than me. He was like a senior when I was a freshman. So yeah, she's a cradle robber. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Her name's Dorothy, I believe, but I think that's correct. But anyway, I knew her when I was a kid. She was always really nice to me, and she let me ride her horse.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather had a horse in his land. He had sold it, so he had 2 of his horses anyway. One of them was unrideable, horrible, cantankerous beast. I don't even know why he had it. And his other horse, Chance, he let this guy keep it. And eventually my grandfather just sold it to him and said, just, whatever. But the cool thing was we could go out there and I could ride the horses anytime I wanted to. And Ralph was a very nice man. And it's a shame because I don't remember his last name. And his granddaughter she got married and her last name is different. She's married to a Czech dude.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they all hang out to Moravian Hall down there in Granger, But I remember that story being told about those people being drug out of their vehicle. And when they came, there was nobody there. They went missing. And that there were these big dents that looked like something had banged into the side of it, like fist marks, I asked one of the county sheriffs that used to go into the U-Totem that my grandmother worked at in Thorndale when I was a child. And I'd go in there and I'd play Donkey Kong, And I remember him. And I asked him about it, and he said that was true. That really happened. Those people went missing.
Yeah.
And I remember he told me that it was like 82, 83 was one of those summers I was down there. And I still have, I have a few, but I had some of the ROM comics that my grandpa would buy me. I used to get those.
Oh, yeah, ROM.
He knew I liked that comic. So my grandfather was a great guy to me anyway. Him and my grandmother all year would buy the new issue every time it came out. So that when I came in the summer, I would have a stack of them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so I would get half of them at Christmas and then the other half at my birthday because my birthday was in July. And I loved nothing more than going with my grandfather. And the highlight of my trip with my grandfather was driving out to Lawrence Cemetery. Now, I remember Old Man Lawrence. They called him Old Man Lawrence. I don't remember his first name. I just remember Old Man Lawrence. And hold on one second. I'm just going to take the camera, but I'm not going to stop talking. But I just remember the going out there to the cemetery and the chapel and visiting that little log cabin that we were at the other night. So I went out there every summer, probably once a week, because they would take him out there. And it's a shame because I don't remember his first name, but he was a very nice guy. And he was like 96 years old when I was like 7. And then he passed away, like I think the next year. And when I found out that he had passed away, I was sad. I remember being a little kid. And he's buried out there. So I don't remember his first name, and my grandparents are deceased. So I'm going to talk to some of my aunts and uncles who are now getting up there in age and see if they can remember. Now, the best person for that would probably be Uncle Jimmy, because he's the oldest. He might remember. And he was very close to my grandfather. So I'm going to find out. But I remember as a kid, and I remember this very vividly, Old Man Lawrence talking about how that cemetery, there was a black panther that was hunting out there, and it was scaring the caretakers. This is back in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And that back in the late 70s, they had shot and killed this thing. And that it was massive. According to him, it was a 300-pound beast. 300 pounds. Now, jaguars don't get to be 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So if that's a black melanin jaguar or whatever, how the hell did it get to be 300 pounds? And that's weird. Now, there was no talk of them being like man beasts walking on 2 legs, nothing like that. But I remember this very clearly, and I've planned for a long time to try to do some work out there. One of the problems, folks, is we're able to do it because we're living out in the middle of nowhere now, so we can go right around the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're living here in town and your work is just a pain in the ass. If I could kick work to the curb and do this full time, I would, but I can't. This doesn't pay the bills. But if it did, we'd all be a lot smarter, believe me, because I would get to the bottom of a lot of shit. Excuse my language, but it's horse shit that we have to go work constantly. And, it's just never-ending work, But somebody's got to keep the country going. And so when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, we showed you on Friday how desolate it is.
Mm-hmm.
That was not that late either, folks. That was not like, 2 a.m. You could turn the lights off and you could be in the dark out there and just scream your head off and nobody's going to hear you.
You could probably do that during the day and nobody's going to hear you.
Well, yeah, people might see you from a distance, but they're not going to be able. They're not going to know what you're saying. You could probably be mauled by a Dogman right there. Nobody's going to know. And so it was very dark out there. And if you watched the show, you would know. And we're not bullshitting about that. One of the things you got to remember, too, like there was a story we told that we're going to take you out there and retell the encounter in its entirety. I got it together Saturday. I made it a point. These people went out there. And they had an encounter with, and they only caught a glimpse of it toward the daybreak. And it was the guy that did it. He caught the glimpse of it. And it was him, his girlfriend, and her little brother. And they got stranded. Their vehicle went completely dead on one of those back roads out there on the other side of Thorndale, in between Thorndale and Lexington. That is some desolate-ass area out there.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all dirt roads, and people see and I hadn't gotten any reports of those strange Bigfoot creatures with the gray faces looking things. I hadn't heard anything about them in a long time. And I was talking to Trey Felton, from Thorndale Meat about it, because he likes to go out there and looking for Bigfoot and stuff. And we had heard nothing about that in a long time. And he hadn't either. But prior to the I think it was probably the early 2000s or something, there were a lot of sightings. Like every couple of years, somebody would see one of these things, and then nothing for like 2 decades. And then recently, and you got to go back to the show or whatever, because I had it in my mind at that time, but I had to put a lot of other stuff into my mind to do this show. But to go back and look and see what the dates were or whatever, I told the dates on there. You would be hard pressed to find a scarier situation. Something was running up and slapping the car for like 3 or 4 hours. They pelted the car with rocks and they cracked a couple of the windows. Now, they did show us pictures of the windows but I mean, that doesn't prove anything. I could take a rock and go and hit my car window and then go, look, Bigfoot hit my window. Yeah. And I'm not trivializing what happened.
But what are the chances that they did that to their own window?
I'm not saying that they did that, but there's a lot of weird stuff. So one day, and I think this was probably in the early to mid 2000s. I don't remember. When I talked to my brother and Scorpion about it, they was like in the middle of 2000s. I thought it was earlier than that, but we were at Moe's Lounge in Taylor, and Anthony's grandmother used to work there, and she would always bring food home from there. It's a great place. It's not there no more. And so you had this, let me put y'all on camera. You had this guy that was always, his name was Gus. And he died probably 15 years ago. Like 2010 or something. I don't know. He died a long time ago. But I remember him, this was a few years before he died, and he was a smoker. He had emphysema because he just smoked since he was 10. He was like 70.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Surprised he lived that long.
I know, 60 years. But back then, people, they ate cigarette butts in their sandwiches. They didn't care.
Yeah.
That's just how it was.
And you used to cure cancer.
Fries.
You shut the kid up with by giving him some whiskey. Make the baby
drink your whiskey and smoke your cigarettes and quit aggravating Grandpa.
Make the baby stop crying. Just put some whiskey in a bottle.
Yeah. So he was there in the lounge one night, and we were talking about, because that place was not far from where I had the Dogman account. It was right up the road. And so we got on the subject of Dogman, and I think it was Scorpion or somebody that brought it up. Are they even in the chat? See if they're going to be in the chat. Because maybe if my mind, maybe they could help me, because oftentimes they'll remember. So we were there, and I believe it was us three, and it was either Squid and Willie or one of the two. They were there. It was 4 of us, and we were all talking, hanging out. And my friend Max was there. They had a pool tournament. And so there's a place that was right across the little waterway right there where he was shooting pool. And so we all hung out. We were hanging out at Moe's. We were eating. And there was an old guy in there named Gus, and he had said, he goes, "Hey, I know another guy who's seen one of these werewolf creatures. And his name is Jack. And so this guy, he was a big, beer-bellied guy who had seen one of these creatures. He used to drive a truck for some company there. They would pick up grain. There was a grain truck, whatever. And he would take it and haul it off, whatever. And he worked for some company. So he came in about 9 or 10 at night, because we were there for a couple of hours after like 7 o'clock. And I think it was like a Sunday night or something. Or it was a Saturday night. And I just specifically remember him, and I had to drink quite a bit that night. We were all drinking. But I remember him telling a story about that Lutheran chapel that we drove right up to it. It's on 112.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right outside of Nowak. And that was where, when he was coming home one night, because he lived way back up in the sticks back there, and he went by that church, and he said, I was driving up to the church, and he goes, and I was slowing down, And he said something, I can't remember what he was. He stopped to light his cigarette or something, and because he's on a health kick, not just cigars, he's on changes cigarettes. And so
they're American Spirit, so they're good for you. They're all natural.
the Heart and Lung Association of Micronesia says, hey.
Yeah.
So anyways, he's smoking a cigarette, whatever. And he goes, I kind of slowed down to light a cigarette. He drives a big old dually, whatever. And he says, I see this creature about 5.5 foot tall. And he said, but it was hunched over. He goes, and at first I thought it was a weird shadow moving independently by itself. And he said he had seen things like that before. Not at the church, but, and the church is white. Mm-hmm. It's always been that way. And he said this thing, at least since I've been alive, and it was moving across the wall that would have been the west side of the wall of that church. And he said that he saw it clear as day. His lights illuminated it, and it turned and kind of looked at him. And he said it had these big, oversized ears. It almost looked like bat ears. And he said it had this big, big snout. I mean, it was a massively headed creature. And he said the head was almost like too big for the body, but the legs were very massive. And it didn't have really big shoulders. But then again, he didn't see it turn. But the arms were kind of out in front of it like it was getting ready to get down on all fours, but he didn't see it happen. And he said the hair on the arms was long, was hanging down. And he said he thought at first it was one of those jackets. Mm-hmm. You know how they have the tassels
with the tassels? Yeah.
Yeah, and he thought somebody was wearing that, but it was that creature's hair. I said it on the live the other night. And it was like, like maybe 6 inches long is what he'd said. And so I remember that story, and I had not even thought about that in a long time. And then my brother was like, hey, there was a story. You remember that guy, Jack, or whatever? And it just kind of brought that back to my mind. But that was several months ago. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to put that in the computer and come back to it when we do. And my whole goal was to do a drive around to these different places and do it like once a week for a couple of hours every week, and just until we can hit most of them. And there's a lot of them to go. But I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I haven't seen him again in years. I saw him one other time when the Stebas had that place at Rice's Crossing. And I stopped in there because I was dying of thirst. I was coming through Maynard. I went through off of the bridge where people see the black dog, where me and Chief had talked about that. And so I pulled into the place right there at Rice's Crossing, and I went in and I got one of those cane sugar Dr. Peppers, which there was back then. That's one of the last places that had them.
Yeah.
And they were those Dublin specials. So when I got it, they had the big ones, So when I got one, and they would make homemade ice cream, and then they would pour it into the ice cream, and you could eat the ice cream and then drink it was awesome. So I went in and I drank one of those Dublin Dr. Peppers with the ice cream, and I stopped, and I was like, and my teacher used to, when I was going to Copeland, her and her husband ran that place, and then they retired and quit doing everything. There's my brother right there. So my brother, I don't know if you remember, D, when we were at Moe's Lounge one night, hanging out with Anthony's grandma, and when Max, the pool shark, our friend. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. The guy, Jack, who had given us the story about the weird creature by the Lutheran church. Scorpion was there. I know he was. And I know Willie was there, but I can't remember if Squid was with us or not. He might have been too. But the point is, there were several of us, and then Max was there. Mm-hmm. And Daniel, the one I saw the Dogman, he was there. And I think maybe Junior was there too. We were all hanging out in there. But this guy gave us that story, and dude, I had totally forgotten about that. There were so many stories we've been given. So when I went back into the archives, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't looked in this particular folder in probably a couple years. And there were 37 stories all in that, just from the outskirts of that, just that one side of 79. Not even talking about the other side.
Jeez. On
the other side of 79, there were 19 stories. These are just Dogman. This is not counting Bigfoot. This is not counting the what do you call them? The were-panther creatures or whatever. This is not ghost goblins. This is not that weird hog-looking creature, Hoxie. This is just straight-up Dogman-looking creatures.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And I was like, holy crap. So I found it, though. Remember I said this morning I was panicking because I thought maybe the government had zapped my phone.
Yeah.
I was like, my phones are gone. What are they? These mother effers. You pieces of shit. You know, if they yell too loud, then Nelly comes in there. What are you doing? Nothing. A game playing. It's bad. People, I'm trying to make these people be good. They're bad people.
I'm arguing with kids on Call of Duty.
I'm trying to make them not be. They need to turn to Christ. So
Tell them to calm down.
People that are yelling at me, making me do this, they're bad. Bad people. They're communists. That's all I'm saying. And then she's like, oh, okay. And she goes back out of the room, and then I start yelling again. See, because people think Nellie's really nice, but she has a point where if you break that, if you go past that,
that's a communist.
You're in trouble, dude. I'm telling you, if you make her have to get up from being asleep, she's one of those grumpy sleeper people. When you wake them up or whatever, and she'll kick the crap out of you, too, while you sleep, too. So, 37 different encounters. And that's not even counting a couple people, like the ones near Apache Pass. That's the other side. I don't count that. That's not those from a different area. Apache Pass gets its own folder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not counting that. And that's not counting people who had multiple encounters. So I had so many people that have seen like Bigfoot, Dogman, weird stuff. And I've had people driving through there. I had a guy from LaGrange tell me one time he was driving down 79. And he said, dude, he was between Rockdale and Milano and Hearn. And he goes, dude, I saw this big, shaggy, hairy beast. It was on 4s, and then it got up on 2, and it was carrying like a small deer in its mouth. But he said it was humongous. And he goes, and it just ran right across the road. He goes, and I thought I was half asleep. What am I seeing here? And so and it's funny, his name was Lyle. So that guy, Lyle, gave me that story. He's an African-American guy. And he had relatives in Hearn. That's a very predominantly African-American community. And he said, dude, he's like, I was just driving through, and he had gone to eat in Taylor at Louis Miller. Everybody, it's like an icon there. Mm-hmm. And he said his friend that he was with was asleep, and they were coming back from auction. And so they decided to just go through there and visit some friends or whatever. And he said we were there for a while in Hearn, and they were sitting on the outskirts of town. And he told his uncle, his late uncle, what he had seen. And his uncle said, that's why we go in, after dark. We don't stay out here on the porch too long. He said then about 9 o'clock, it was summertime, started to get dark. It was late summer. And he said he heard this howling noise, and they all just went inside. Well, that's weird, too, because when I was dating this girl years ago, we were out in Blanco, which is the other side of Devil's Backbone. And you go further west, that's where you get the Dogman reports. We were out there in the back, and I thought it was a nice, cool breeze. It was late spring, and I thought it was nice. And then they all just go inside. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is everybody going inside? They're afraid of these things. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to come out and tell you, especially if you're some outsider. But they're afraid of them.
Just go inside and leave you hanging out there. Don't even tell you.
They actually kind of did. Yeah. Me and her were sitting there, and she was just like, yeah, we should probably go inside. And I'm like, I asked her why. So on the drive back to San Marcos, she's like, well, my family is very superstitious. Mm-hmm. And I didn't push it, I didn't know her that well, and I didn't want her to get uncomfortable or whatever. But later on, we were at a pool party, and her friend started talking, about weird stuff. UFOs started the conversation. And she was from Blank. And then she was like, she's like, tell them about the werewolf that your brother saw. And I was like, my ears perked up. And then she gave me okay, so this was what was goofy about it. She gave me this story, but then I never got to completely talk. Like I talked to him briefly one time, and then me and her broke up. And he was like, "I'll tell you about it someday." And he never told me the whole story. I never got back in touch with him. But it was something like it was right there on the edge of town in Blanco. And he said he was coming from Dairy Queen, and he pulled out and he saw this creature kind of jump down from the side of the bridge. There's like a bridge where the river runs right through there, the Blanco River. And it jumped down and went down toward the water. And he goes, "Dude, was that a gray furred werewolf?" So but then he said there was more to it though, because his friends had seen something like that that following weekend, but I never got the story. So these communities have these weird stories. New Braunfels has these weird stories. You know, Seguin, they got these weird Bigfoot, you know, and then you have like all these communities here in Central Texas, you know, that they all have these weird stories. Now, we could go for months just driving around. I'm convinced. And outside of Green, there's weird encounters. People see Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever, rake creatures. And you could probably drive around, you know, for months just going to these places. You know, every time we do Riverfront Road, I always think about all the weird stuff out there that people have seen. I can't even remember it all. It's so much. A Bigfoot punching somebody's trailer, knocking the wall in, you know, just people having rocks thrown at them by what look like werewolves or Bigfoot or something, you know, or something, you know. We've had a lot of these things. A guy even got grabbed by one of these Bigfoot-like creatures that was under the water, you know, and they tried to grab him. And we talked about that on the show. We told that story. And so you have a lot of weird stuff. People seeing, well, like when the Hernandezes were in the Guadalupe, and they saw what looked like werewolves, you know, but the other people didn't see it. They saw like this blurry cloaked looking thing, but the Hernandez people themselves could see it. That's weird. And it could speak to something like what we've talked about before, like a bloodline. So that's what Jack saw. That was a very brief encounter, but it was, yeah, poor Peanut. I can't believe what they did to that squirrel. That's ridiculous. That and that raccoon, that poor guy has to be brokenhearted. New York is a mess. The whole state.
Was it the same guy that owned both of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just. But anyways, Nowak is located on County Road 432 and 112. And there have been a lot of sightings of things around that area. Now, I don't know of any that were inside of the town, just stuff that was around there. Now, the story that I'm going to get into right now, I'm going to tell tonight, and we will go out there and we will investigate. We need equipment. We have somebody who's ready to send us some equipment, and it's everything we need, everything we could possibly need. That's what they said. And it's like $2,200. And that's doable for us. But first, we have to get through what we're doing right now, which is a credit rescore, and it's ridiculousness, dude. And then, you know, pay the down payment on this house so that we have a place to live that's not, you know, in the middle of nowhere, Schitt's Creek. So that's our situation. So, but as soon as that happens, we are going to be going and probably doing like recording ourselves. We'll do some live streaming. And then we'll do some pre-records too, to drop the stuff. Because right now what we got, we had one camera and it didn't work. So we're gonna have to go and get something and the lighting needs to be better. That flashlight we had is an expensive, good flashlight, but you have to charge like the batteries with a special charger, which all the moving and stuff, we don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
Or if we still have it. So we need to get
the
a
cameras
bunch of
that we would use out there, because we have a night vision camera that we can use, but I mean, we can't live stream out there with it, but we can do some pre-recorded stuff out there, but that's packed up somewhere in a box.
Yeah, we have 3 different storages.
along with our GoPro cam, which we were going to use too.
Yeah, and then the other camera didn't work. So, this happened in Byersville, which is County Road 619 and 451. Now, the guy that this happened to had never had, because I asked this guy, he's never had anything weird happen to him, whatever, nothing whatsoever. But he did get me in touch with somebody who had a really weird story, which may or may not pertain to this phenomena. I don't know. But so anyway, this guy, his name is Eric. Or I'm sorry, Derek. Derek went through there in late October in 2007. And he's like, he was driving through there by Byersville Hall, and where the old hall was. And so he said, dude, he came around the corner of this thing. And he said that this thing, whatever it was hunched down, dragging something through that where the Byersville Hall was. There's like a place where you park and stuff in the gravel, and then there's like some grass on the sides. It was dragging it across the gravel. There's a light there too, like this yellowy light at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he could clearly see what looked like to him a half of a torso, like the lower half of someone's body. And so this thing was dragging it. And then when he saw it, he goes, it stopped. And it wasn't that far off from the road, maybe 30 feet. And he said he looked at it, and it was right there in that parking lot, pulling it off into the grass, and it looked right at him. And he said, and I made eye contact with it, clear as day. And now this is what I read on the email, and he said that he had no prior anything, didn't no knowledge of that. He had been living in East Texas, where the prison is. What's it called? Huntsville.
Mm-hmm.
He had been living in Huntsville, so he moved out there to stay with his fiance. And he was like, I'm not from this region. And she said, oh, you must have seen one of these werewolves. Like that's what we call them. And she was like, I don't know what that was, but her and her brother and her brother's friend were like, hey, let's all get in the truck and go back out and see if we could see it. So they drive back out there after, but it had been almost an hour at that point, and there was nothing, nowhere to be seen. But they did find blood and drag marks, like where he's like, it was right here. So they were going to call the police, okay? And then the police, when they did, they told the sheriff's department, I think it was Williamson County, and they didn't even bother. They were like, what? Because he didn't tell them it was a person. He told them it was a wolf-like creature on 2 legs.
Yeah, I would have left the 2 legs.
So the police aren't going, they didn't even bother.
Yeah.
And these are country people, dude. Like this dude, he's not.
I would have told him like that I saw coyotes dragging a human torso.
Yeah, something.
So just so you can get them out there,
When you tell them it's a werewolf, they're not going to do
it. They're not going to.
Some cops might.
Biscuits and gravy.
I would at least say, like, I saw a man in a wolf suit or something.
So you could have said, I saw a man that could have been wearing a costume.
Mm-hmm.
Something that would get him out there.
Yeah.
Not just like, hey, man, I just was coming back from working a 12-hour shift. I was really tired. And, I think I saw the wolf man dragging a person across the, because, think about it. They're probably, that happens, though. Daniel's cousin had something. And I talked about this on DER, where they were out near Thorndale and there was predation going on, and they find this creature, whatever, and his cousin shot at it. And when they called the police didn't even bother to come out. They didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it is really difficult to get them on your side, because even if they believe you, they have to deal with what could become the ridicule and maybe even repercussions from the higher ups, because they just don't want to hear that shit,
Yeah.
And I don't understand like why it's so tabooed, But it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't change it. I mean, it is what it is. Hold on one second. So, anyways, Derek saw this thing. Him and his wife now are living in Houston. But here's the interesting thing. Derek told me, he says, dude, the woman he was girlfriend's his wife now, and he says, you know, he goes, now they're living in the other side of Houston. He said, dude, he said they lived briefly right outside of not Tomball. Gosh, what is that other town?
Pinehurst?
Not Pinehurst. That's where my cousin lives.
One of those Houston area towns?
No, it's just right there. My mom used to live there.
Temple?
No. It's in Houston. It was Pinehurst. It's Tomball.
Let me pull it up, see if I can.
Starts with like an S maybe or something. I don't know. It's where my mom used to stay. I can't remember. My mind is just all over the place. Can't even think about the name of it. Oh, God, can't remember the name of the town. Just escaped me. It's not in my notes right here. I have the other notes, but not where his. Because this may or may not be connected. I don't know.
There's Cypress. There's Sugarland. Is it in the same area as Tomball?
Yeah, it's right next to it. It's Tomball. My mom used to stay there. Sugarland's on the other side.
Mhm.
This is like on the west side of Houston, going into Houston. And it's not Katy. We've had stuff from Katy too.
I don't see anything starting with an S on the.
Well, I mean, it may not be an S. It's just that's how I remember it. But it was Armando lived there too. It wasn't. What in the hell? I'm gonna have to look it up, folks, because there's a lot of stuff that came out of that area too. You know, me and Armando researched it. I can look at a map, Google Maps, maybe. Y'all look it up, see if you can find it, please. And this time, please actually try to find it. I mean, it's really
I'm
aggravating.
looking.
Sugarland is on the other side.
A stagecoach.
Spring. There it is. Spring. Starts with an S. Spring. Right there. I don't know how you didn't see that. Spring. Tomball. I'm sorry, I get aggravated because I'm trying to remember this. It's Spring, Tomball, and then there's Pinehurst, and then there's Magnolia. It just keeps going. But that whole area is heavily, heavily wooded. And then there's like these splotches of piney woods out there. But Spring is where they moved to. And it was blowing up. It's a suburb of Houston. And so right after they had the Dogman thing, like two weeks later, they were moving. They got a place down there. He got a job down there. And so they moved. And then she immediately had like the first week they were there in this house that they were living in, she was washing dishes. This is weird, right? And remember how our Ash's encounter was. And these are people, a lot of people, we know these people. We don't know them, but we know a lot of the people who've had these encounters. We've talked to them face to face. At the conference, I got 2 or 3 people that just came up and just told me flat out, like, I've seen these things. One guy from Louisiana. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that donation there. I know money's tight and donations are hard to come by nowadays. But we appreciate anything you guys can help with. We appreciate it. It helps the show. It helps us live. I know people are going like, this guy's got gold. He could pawn that. Yeah, not when it's like as expensive as it is. No way. I'd be stupid to give that up. I'd rather go and sell one of these people. But that lady who called the state over Peanut must be scared out of her mind. Half the country is ready to go. John Wilk on her. I thought it was a lady, but I didn't know for sure.
Some Karen.
Yeah. Why do that? Why you get that animal killed? That's just, you know what? I hope you pay for that. And so this situation, she was washing dishes. And Spring, okay, now if you haven't been to that area, it's right off of, what is that highway right there that runs through there? Because you go off of 290, then you have to go all up in this rigmarole. And that highway, I know it's got like Magnolia, Pinehurst, Spring, Tomball, and then the other one,
249?
Cypress. Huh?
249.
249. So right there, if you go off at 249 and you go on either side of those highways, it gets pretty rural real quick. But then there's a ton of people that live right there on it, right? So they were living kind of out in the country, sort of in between Spring and Pinehurst, and oh man, it's buffering. So what ended up happening, she was washing dishes. This was the first day they were out there, first night or whatever. They had eaten dinner. I guess the first night they had gotten unpacked. They spent a few days getting unpacked because the first day we were unpacked and she was washing dishes and he was taking a shower and getting ready to go to bed because he had to work the day side. And when he had been kind of on a swing shift before that. And so he said that, he was like, heard her scream, heard her freak out. And she said that she saw like the they had like the curtain, like a curtain. They said they actually had a pretty decent place that they were renting.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some blinds there and there was a curtain. But through that, with the light outside of the place where she would wash dishes, you have the window. She sees this shadow go by it. And it was like what Arash had described. How he saw the wolf-like head and the muzzle, everything. It looked like a wolf's head. Like this, like a wolf's head going across the window. And so she screams and freaks out. So Derek runs in there and he's like, what's going on? And she's just like, I saw something. It was like really tall. And she said it looked like it was hunched over, like, so it could scare her, And she's like, I'm certain that if I would have lifted the curtain, that there would have been a wolf-like creature there. She didn't think it was like a ghostly, shadowy thing. You know what I mean? Like a demon. She thought it was a friggin' werewolf. And she may have been right for all we know. So then he says this, though. He says, but then he's like, we didn't see anything like that again. But we were only there for 6 months. Okay. And he said that it was like, I think he said they stayed there from like November to whatever until, But he said it was very weird. He's like early spring, and that he was outside with his dog, and his dog started growling, and he sees this little the only way he could describe it was like a goblin, like peeking behind one of the pine trees. He was like, "What in the hell?" And so when he threw the dog's ball, he thought maybe I'm tripping. His shepherd decided that it wasn't going to go over there toward that tree. Mm-hmm. And then he was like on the phone, kind of like, he had the phone on your shoulder, and he's talking to his sister. So he goes to throw the ball. And then he says, hold on, sis. And he goes, at that point, I saw this thing move from behind that tree to another tree. And they had a bunch of weird little stuff happening and thought the house was haunted. Right now, it gets interesting because they saw this creature, but then his stepson had come to live with him because she had won custody of the son. And he's a really good kid. And he said that he would play out in the shed. They had one of those detached garages. And he said that he would play outside in the shed and stuff. And it was like we had a train set out there. And he said that he was out there and he screams and he says he sees this goblin-looking creature. And the way he described it, he said it had a droopy, pointy nose and these ugly teeth and this really dirty, nasty looking face, and it had these pointy ears and it kind of hung down at the bottom too. It was floppy ears. And he said that it was horrific looking, and it grabbed one of his toy cars and then ran into the woods. And this child had he wasn't prone to nightmares, imagination, whatever. But not even a week into staying there, he was already having nightmares and having weird encounters with something he thought was standing in the hallway looking at him. And so we started talking, and I said, now, if you haven't seen the episode, folks, I'm telling you, if you haven't listened to the Duende King, Okay. That dude, whatever the hell that effort was, okay, I'm thinking like some sort of vampiric type being because he was of Mayan descent and his grandfather was a mummy. Okay. You'll get it when you listen to the show,
Yeah.
you'll know what we're talking about. It sounds crazy, but go, this is PRT. They think we're nuts anyway. Who cares? You probably are. But the thing is, when somebody is very convinced of that, and so, of what he was telling me, so I got on the ball Saturday, and I talked to this guy, and I said, let me ask you a question. Because I had read the email, and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, this is something that I want to know. And I told him, I said, there's a show that we just did. But I said, and if you go back and listen to it, and this guy he's not listening to the show. He's referred to me by another friend of mine from my hometown. Well, not my home. He lives outside my hometown. And so I told him, I said, go back and listen to that show. Okay. And about 2 hours later, he did. And he messaged me and says, hey, I was checking out the show. It's very creepy. The Duendes, he kind of started thinking maybe that's what this was. And I told him, I said, there was another show. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it or what it was. But there was this, if y'all hear, y'all veterans of PRT, you're very smart. Do you remember, and I got so much on my mind, but do y'all remember that episode we did where that thing, like it looked like it had melted? And people were seeing this little imp-like dwarf looking, whatever it was. And it was in the house, it was outside the house, and then in the den, I believe it was the den, and they found what looked like a shell that had the consistency of melted wax, except when you touched it, it was still kind of soft.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing started looking like a werewolf.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
And I was sitting there thinking, who knows what episode, we've done so much work, but this thing could have been, that's what shapeshifted into this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't know. I could be completely off base. Who the hell knows? But that's what I thought. I thought, well, maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's, and so I told this guy, and this is very important. You don't want to lead the witness into, you're like, you sure you didn't see Optimus Prime? No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, are you positive? Because I'm pretty sure that was Optimus Prime. And then the next day he calls you, my kid's Optimus Prime toy was walking. I think that's what it was. I think that you're right. It completely, you sold me on it.
Yeah. Because
you can sell people on the idea and you can implant things in their minds. So to keep it from being polluted, you kind of have to go in, and just, I said, look, I don't want to give you ideas and make you think that that's what this is. I said, but you saw this thing dragging something by Byersville Hall, right? And I told him, I said, you are not the first person to see something near that hall at all. I told him, I said, that place has a reputation for being haunted. It has a reputation for, we actually did security there one night about 20 years ago because it had been vandalized and I didn't see anything. I went and did it myself. Not 20 years ago, but it was probably around the time of the Church of the Forgotten type thing. We were doing some of these far-flung things. And then when the Church of the Forgotten thing happened, we decided we're done. If you're way out in the middle of the boonies, I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And so I went out there. Of course, it was the first year that I was working, or the second year I was working with Marty. But so I told him, I said, what is the odds though? Think about this. Of this being a completely different phenomenon, and the second your wife has dishes ready to wash, the first dinner she was able to cook there, she sees this shadow that looks like a werewolf. And then you start periodically seeing this little creature. Now, up until the point where he saw it behind the tree, there were other times that they'd seen it, but it was just little brief. Like he thought he saw something run out of the bathroom and it was real quick, like running, and there's videos of these things, especially in Mexico, they'll have these little videos of these things like run real fast and they have like a shadow and you start to think, well, like Is that what we're dealing with? You know, could it be the Duende doing this? Could they shapeshift into these creatures? Or are they just close with these creatures? Because the Duende King, to me, could have been a vampire, you know, vampiric type entity, because people saw him. Not to. If you haven't seen the episode, I don't want to spoiler alert, but I think he was a vampiric entity. You listen to the episode, you'll know what we're talking about. And I think that dropped 2 episodes ago. It was the live we did out in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did the Halloween one, which I think was really good. And then before that we had dropped the Duende King, and before that it was the Man Wolf of Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
So the last encounter they had was his wife saw when she was combing her hair, and she had this full bodied mirror that was there in the house when they moved in. She was convinced it was from the house, but why would you see that thing and then you move and a couple weeks and then you have all this happening?
Yeah.
I think it's a connection. And so then she saw this thing behind her, and she said it stood there like something was in the air there. And she said that it was like looking kind of around, the corner behind a door or whatever. Thank you, Shade, for that donation. And so she sees it while she's combing her hair, and she says she froze. And she said the way it was looking at her through the mirror was like it was watching her like really closely, like very intently. And she thought, this thing is staring at me. Okay. She thought this thing could just be waiting for me to turn so it can attack me, or maybe it's going to sneak up on me. She goes, and then it started to look through the mirror. Like it wasn't looking at me. It started looking at the mirror. And she's like, and when I made eye contact with it in the mirror, it kind of made this like kind of angry face and then darted away. So I think that it was watching her, and it probably knew that its image may be picked up by the mirror or maybe not. You know what I mean? But she said that confirmed to her that she had been seeing something looking at her through the mirror. It was an ugly, grayish green colored skin with these weird, like nasty pockmarks all over its face that looked like rotted flesh, with a big beak nose. It was drooping down, and big ears. And it had this grotesque head with like sparse hair on it. And the hair was coming off of its face like weird splotches, and it just looked gross. She said it was the most disgusting, vile little goblin creature, as she described it to her husband. So I don't know. This all happened, in another town, like 2.5 hours away. Is there a connection? I mean, I would say so. I mean, the only thing they saw werewolf-like was that thing go across the window.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's the smoking gun to me, which tells me that these things... Now, here's the theories you can postulate on. One is that these beings can imitate these wolf-like creatures, right? Or they are just found in the same areas because these things can move in and out of portals like they can. Or what he saw could have been one of these creatures in its wolf-like form doing... Do you remember when we talked about the Bigfoot type creatures in the Levant, where they're shape-shifting into a human, but they look like a deformed giant?
Yeah.
And it could be the Bigfoot is shape-shifting into a human type creature. You remember how we discussed that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to think outside the box. I do, and I hope everybody else would at least give it some.
Like they're trying to take the form of a person.
Yes,
but
but it doesn't come out right because.
Yeah.
Do you remember the black lady, African American lady? She told us a story about her father coming to her, but he had green eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, Anthony, you in particular, you were like, that is not your dad.
Yeah.
She's a very nice woman. And she wanted to believe it. She goes, yeah, but he just seems so. And I was like, but nothing. And then there was another woman who saw her uncle. Another one saw her late husband.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always something off. The eye color. You know, one lady, and I don't know if we've told this story yet or not, Adelaide, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
This is a weird thing. She was seeing what she thought was her ex-boyfriend who had passed away in a motorcycle wreck, but he had 6 fingers. And when she told me, she's like, it was so odd. He had like 6 fingers. And and she's like, and you know, I don't know why he would have 6 fingers. I don't either. But that's not him. And I explained to her about the Nephilim, and she's like, well, I've never really been a believer of the Bible. And I said, whether you believe it or not, you know, these beings are described as 6 fingers.
Either way, I mean, like, why would he have 6 fingers appearing to you? Like, explain that.
It's not explainable. So, and of course, we're going to do one on Australia pretty soon, too. And we had 2 really creepy stories that are going to come out. We're going to do them on the 1-hour shows. One of them is about a minotaur. We got another one. What's crazy is we had a guy come on the show. When was that? Like, it was a week or 2 ago, and he saw a maybe he's in the chat, a centaur type creature. Prior to him, everybody who's told us about the centaur, except for one person, it always happened when they were children. Very young children in particular, which is really weird. Remember how we kept track of that? And we do our data here. People are always like, well, I'm talking about the data. We have the data. We got the data. You know? But that's what we keep track of that. You know, I do. Tony tries to screw it up, but I save it. I protect it.
Well, to be fair, though, he doesn't have to try. I mean, he doesn't try to screw it up. He just does.
Tony's just like, what is this? He just starts slamming the keyboard.
Hey, Gilbert. Yeah.
You asked me put in the computer. And computer got me mad. And I was throwing it and I said Kool-Aid with the other friend. Okay, little buddy. We can just stop it right there.
Got him all riled up with your offensive words.
You mad, Banjo?
Yeah, he got all.
Banjo's used to being around this crazy person. He don't care.
You mad because of this? To that? To that?
You're making him all riled up. Hey, Banjo. Banjo.
That's enough.
Banjo. How come you don't protect Tony when I do that? When I go at Tony, he does not do that. He just goes, he rolls over.
Oh, my goodness.
See, Banjo knows not to mess with me. See, when I come out with the belt, I give him a spanking, and Banjo's just like, that's what you get. You done did something. That's where you messed up right there. You made that dude mad. I'm not going to, if it's Nelly or Anthony or Scorpion, I'll go at him. But if it's Wolf, I'm not going to do it. Banjo loves me. He don't mess with me at all. You know why? Because when he would, I said this before, when there were storms, he would crawl on the bed with me, and I would protect him. He remembers that. He appreciates it. He's one of those appreciative animals. Protein, guys. I got it. It is a protein bar. See, not a candy bar. This isn't a Charleston's Chew or whatever the hell.
It's better.
So, what do you guys think of that story? And anybody in the chat wants to, before we go to the next one.
I think you were kind of right. I think you kind of hit it on the head. I think it might be a duende that kind of just have this shape. I mean, we don't really know what abilities they have. I mean, really, if there are different kinds that can do different kind of stuff, maybe there are kinds that are specifically they just transform into things. Because what is that legend or myth or story about it's like a creature that tries to kidnap your kid and then replaces the kid.
Changeling.
Changeling.
Yeah. So I mean, what's so different?
I always thought that's what Scorpion was.
Well, it's changing into something, all right.
His siblings seemed to agree with me. When I told them about that, they were like, "Oh, that's why he's." He literally got so mad at me. I'm not a changeling, dude. I'm like, well, stop acting like it.
That's
I don't know
exactly
about-
what a changeling would say.
There you go, mystical.
But I don't know about the idea of a duende like shape shifting into a werewolf though, because I mean, like, why would it need to do that? Like, I mean, if the
Why
goal,
wouldn't it? It would scare the shit out of you.
well, yeah, but
Scare the shit out of me. More scary than looking at
a
that.
grotesque, disgusting looking
That
goblin
wouldn't
would scare
scare me like
people
a
too.
werewolf, dude.
Well, yeah, but but I mean, like the average person is gonna get scared enough from seeing this little hideous, slimy imp thing. I mean, I don't know. I just don't see the necessity.
Dude, you were the one talking about kicking them and karate chopping and stuff. What are you now? You scared?
Yeah, that's for
So you're
comedic
gonna go
effect. I mean,
WWE
yeah,
on it.
But in real life, you pee yourself.
because it's funny.
Now we
like,
know. Now we know.
well, yeah,
I don't think
it would still creep me out, but like it's not gonna stop me from like making jokes about like shooting them out of cannons and kicking them and tossing them. Whee!
I don't think you got
stepping on them.
I don't think like people would be aggressive like maybe you would be towards some of these things, but I think they'd definitely be more dismissive. Like, just play it up like, oh, I'm just saying things that doesn't exist. So like that.
We got to get one of those things and put him up against a midget wrestler.
They would kill them.
That'd be great. I don't know. They might be evenly matched.
We're not supposed to call them midgets anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, many people.
How dare you? I have midget friends and they don't appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, they patted up to here with my crap.
Man, you're horrible.
I'm telling Nelly you said that.
When all else fails, just play the race card. Be like, my people have been picked on for years.
Mhm.
They'll believe you. Okay, I don't want to sit there and eat on camera. So let's move on. Anyway, sorry, Derek, I don't have more answers for you. I'm not a bloody magician, but it is what it is. Where's Scorpion at?
I don't
Scorp,
know.
I just called you a changeling. You're not going to get
I don't
mad?
think I've seen him.
Stay when I would say that.
Hey,
You
Scorp,
get mad, dude.
hey, Scorp, don't answer in the live chat if you're a changeling.
Uh-oh.
Just ignore everything going on right now if you're a changeling.
Yeah, don't even say anything. That'll tell us everything.
Mm-hmm.
All
I
right,
think the
so
answer is pretty conclusive, gentlemen.
we'll come back to the stories from Central Texas. We're going to move forward though, and we're gonna talk about some of these accounts that we got. Oh, he's at La Hacienda. You're about to leave from La Hacienda, dude. I bet he was watching the game though. You probably watched the Cowboys get their ass whooped today, didn't you? I hope the Cowboys never win another game. This is my most ardent wish. I hope they lose every game until Jerry Jones is unalived.
He'll probably just fire his coach and then replace him, but still interfere.
You want to give Dak all that money to an unproven guy. Oh yeah, he's got stats, right? But he can't win a big game. So why give it that money?
Yeah, you need more than just a good quarterback. Which I mean, Dak's good, but he's not like he's not great.
Not great. He did the same thing.
He's not worth all that
State.
money.
Dude, he would play teams in Mississippi State and just if they were below average or just average, he'd beat the crap out of them. But in big games, he would just fold like a cheap suit.
He's too inconsistent.
Yeah, that's what he does now. That's what he does. He showed that, from Jump Street when that first year he was playing and he couldn't take out Green Bay at home again. This guy just has no winning record. I mean, record with playoffs. Bless you. So I am now an anti-Cowboy fan until Jerry Jones is gone. Because I really believe he's agreed with Goodell to lose.
Yeah.
I do. And I think he's more interested in being a billionaire. Jerry, newsflash, you can't take it with you, E.T. Okay? When you phone home to your new home down there, you can't take it with you. Your wealth is not going to help you. Okay? Hold on one second.
Maybe he's got a deal with Goodell where I don't know, where he's like being paid off to just kind of accept what the referees do and not really care that his team's getting screwed.
Maybe he's
And for him to stay on and keep interfering.
Okay, and I want to clarify that I'm not telling people that Mr. Jones needs to be assassinated. Okay, that is not.
No, just step down.
No, I'm talking about he's 80-something years old at some point. You know, I mean, he can't only have so many heart surgeries and plants, and I don't know, his face looks like it's been redone a few times.
I think at this point,
Eventually he's got to be.
it's more likely that he's going to unalive than he will step down.
Yeah.
So let's just clarify that to make sure people understand.
I think he's an emotional vampire, actually. I think that he's got some kind of...
He plays with the fans' emotions. I know that.
He'd look a lot better
it all
than
up.
how he looks if he was a vampire.
Just be like, you're actually a good-looking vampire.
He must be like a starving vampire.
So let's move on. So here's one. This one came from Tyler, not Tyler the city, which is not Taylor the city, but Tyler, a guy named Tyler. And he was working for a large company in Fort Worth, and he had a guy that he worked with named Terrence. And Terrence had gone to visit in-laws on his long weekend near Hillsboro. Now, Hillsboro is very interesting because we've gotten reports out of Hillsboro in that area. In fact, our friend Lance Hoyt, the wrestler, pro wrestler, also now is what, Murder Hawk or something like that?
I don't know.
I think that's what he's called now, Murder Hawk or whatever. But anyway, he saw something with a couple of other wrestlers when they were coming back from a show, driving from San Antonio to Fort Worth back before he made it and was in WWE and all that. A friend of mine from way back, and he was on the show once, and he talked about the werewolf encounter he had. He called it a werewolf, which most people do until they're in this community. Then they're like, it's a Dogman. Well, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. But looking at my notes here, so Tyler had a friend named Terrence, and what Terrence found was interesting, to say the least. He comes to work, and he knew that Tyler was a collector of silver coins. He'd been buying silver for a while, but he was buying it more for the aesthetic purposes, like how they looked, the cool
So
looking.
they weren't like investments.
Yeah, but he said since watching my show, he's really stepped it up and been buying silver hardcore. And good for you, because silver is going to go up. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it'll hit $50 an ounce. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but it's what is it now? $30-something.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to happen. And I've invested heavily in silver and gold. Hey, Abe, how you doing? Abe C is from Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters. I love to hang out in his chat at late night, man, when I'm able to.
Yeah, it's fun.
Here lately, I've had to get up and do so. Last night, folks, was the first night I was able to go back to the gym and lift weights in almost exactly 2 months. I think I was like 2 months and a day. And I was able to lift. And I didn't light the world on fire, but I did do my workout. My elbow is a little bit stiff, but I woke up today with it feeling okay. My arms and upper body are sore as hell. Might still be another couple of weeks before I can do my legs because of my foot is not 100%. But pray for me, please, and that I can get back in there and be healthy. So I'm glad to be able to lift again. So this is an interesting story. We went over this one this morning, Anthony. It's a weird one. So what happened was Terrence found something very interesting. He was walking in a pasture with his father-in-law, and he kicked over something that was shiny, and it was kind of half in the dirt and half out, and he kicked it. And this isn't a plowed field. This is a ranch,
Mhm.
you know. And so he picked it up, and what it was, and it had a little hole at the top, like it looked like it was a medallion, like somebody may have worn it, but it was very primitive looking, and it looked like it was very worn, but you could make out what looked like the outline of a werewolf, dogman looking creature. It had kind of its arms like this. He said, like the left arm was kind of up and the right arm was kind of back, and you could see the weird legs. The legs. He said that one of them was kind of not real clear, but the one leg was clearly like a backward bent leg, and the head was kind of worn, but it looked like a snout, and it looked like a werewolf.
Mhm.
And so he picked it up and he showed his father-in-law, and his father was like, "Keep it," And he said that the Comanches were roamed all over that area. Might have been something that they had. Maybe they got it from a European settler, because he said he found arrowheads out there, And so who knows where it came from or how old it was or what it was. And so he had it and he liked it, and he said it spoke to him, that guy Terrence did. And so he took it to work and he showed Tyler, and Tyler's like, the minute I saw it, I immediately wanted it. I wanted to have it. I wanted to possess it. And so he says, "Look, I'll give you $40 for it." And he's like, that's more than what the silver's worth. And he goes, "Nah, I'm going to keep it for a while."
Mm-hmm.
But then something weird happened. His wife had a wreck, and then with one of their children in the vehicle, and they barely survived. They weren't injured bad or anything. She got whiplash, but it could have been a lot worse. And that was the first red flag. But then he started having nightmares too. And I don't know about the nightmares that Terrence had, because I didn't speak to him. I don't know him. But he said, I had a nightmare, and this is going to be crazy when I tell you this, folks, okay? Listen to what I'm going to tell you. He had a nightmare about this thing chasing him, getting him at the top of his stairs. These guys have a pretty good job. They work for a nice, large company, same company my friend works for up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to say the name of it, but they do very well money-wise. So this guy's a nice big house. He said this thing was chasing him all over his house, and it gets him at the top of the stairs and starts biting him on his legs, and then moves up and bites him on his head. And he wakes up and he's got like pain in his lower legs and in his head. Like it was really happening. And so, he was like, "That's it for me. I'm done." He takes it to work and he tells Tyler at lunch break, he's like, "Hey man, do you want this thing? Because I don't want it. I don't know." And he's like, "But full disclosure, I've been having nightmares of like this werewolf type creature chase me around my house. My wife's had a couple weird dreams. So has my kid. And my wife had a wreck. So I don't know if it's all connected, and Tyler's like, "Whatever, I'll take it." He bought it. And he gave him $50 for it. The guy only wanted 40. He said, "I'll give you 50." He's a good friend of his, whatever, work friend. He takes this metal, whatever. And so I knew immediately where he was going. It was like, like he said, not even a week into this, having this thing, he slips and falls in the shower and busts his mouth open, and his tooth comes through his lip. And so he had to go to the doctor, and he lost one of his teeth. He said it looked like a hockey player. He goes, and then I end up having a person T-bone me. And he goes, and I got injured just like this dude's wife. But it could have been a lot worse. It was like almost like a warning,
Yeah.
That's in my opinion. That's not what he said. And then he said that this whatever it was, he started having these dreams of this thing heaving, its chest heaving, standing by the foot of his bed. And when he would open his eyes, it would just come down with its head like it would start to devour his midsection. Right? And so then he would wake up and be like, oh, and flailing around. And this went on and on. Like he had several of these dreams. And then some of them were very lucid, but then others were like vivid dreams of that he thought he couldn't distinguish between that and reality.
Mm-hmm.
And now we began to talk, and he hasn't heard me talk about this on that other show. And I said, look, I've talked about this on my show a little bit, but especially on this other show where I used to have nightmares with these things. And I said, you're lucky if you got rid of it. And he said, well, let me tell you what happened. He was driving down the road near Fort Worth, outside of Fort Worth. And he said, I was in between there and Arlington, and he was up near, oh my gosh, it's a suburb of it's north. It's in between Fort Worth and Arlington. You can probably look it up. There's a suburb up there, but he was up there and he was driving. It's up there by where Blackburn lives. And so he was driving through there, and he said, dude, I had this weird, like brain fog. Like I couldn't remember how to drive a freaking car. He goes, so I pulled over to the side of the road, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And then he got terrified because he goes, I thought I was having a stroke. I couldn't focus. There was all this pressure in my head. Felt like my head was going to explode. He goes, and then I look up and I see this, what at first looks like a pale, like I would describe it as like a pale crawler with little spikes all over its body, standing up in the road. And then when he stares at it, it kind of vibrates and turns into this blackish smoke gray colored wolf-like creature. Now, I don't know. And he said that when it was like this pale looking creature with the little spikes on it, it could have been tufts of hair, was what he told me. He said, but I wasn't for sure. And he's like, and I looked dead on. He goes, and I had just got the phone with his friend Kenny. And he said, I had just got the phone with him. He's like, and I was headed to his house. And it was like, this was not nighttime. It was not in the middle of the night. This was like almost dusk, but it was, and he was going over there to watch Sunday Night Football. Probably to watch the Cowboys lose. And good. I hope they lose forever until Jerry Jones steps down. Or whatever. Or goes to the unseelie court. wherever he came from. And he looks like, an E.T. But anyway, he says he was looking at this creature. He goes, and then it just like moved really quickly and was off of the road. And he's like sitting there and he's like, what? And he said, then it felt like his head was in a fishbowl. He was swimming. And I've had that feeling before when I've woken up from these weird dreams. Now, I have not told him this because I talked to him a while back. But this is weird. And I told Nellie this. I went to bed really late this morning because we were working on the budget, everything, because we're having to live like, I'm not going to lie, folks. We're having to, scrape by until they will let us use our cards again. And so this being whatever, and so I was working hard on the budget, trying to figure out a way to get things done. And I think I did. But I went to bed extremely exhausted, extremely tired. And I just the minute my head hit the pillow, I was out. But when I woke up, my wife woke me up because she always does this. She wakes up before me and makes as much noise as possible. She stomps up and down into where I'm dreaming about an elephant in the room. And then she invites the local marching band over to play The Eyes of Texas in the bedroom with me. Then she goes outside and throws bricks at the wall. And then beats on my cars until they start going, rah, 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 and then I wake up, and then she's like, oh, hi, you're awake. What are we doing today? 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 And I'm like, I guess I'm not going to sleep.
Definitely not sleeping.
Because usually I'm asleep by 6 a.m, and then I wake up at 11. That's been my pattern, 7, 6, whatever. And then I go back to sleep briefly and then go to the gym. which I did. Last night I went to the gym, and when I got back, I stayed up. I stayed up until 11 or 10 in the morning. But then I was up by 2. So I said, I need to get some sleep. So I went back to sleep. So this is what happened to me. And now this is weird. And this is the absolute truth. I woke up at like, went to back to sleep. Finally, I got to sleep maybe 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had told you, hey, we need to get going and get to town. It takes a good hour or whatever. So I said, we got to leave early. Wake me up, so we can go, whatever. Because you were on the phone dealing with the treasure hunt, our scavenger hunt we have to do for the house.
Yeah.
And so I wake up briefly, and I'm not joking, and I am not bullshitting the audience here, dude. I saw something standing next to me on the bed, or by the bed. And it looked like a gray-haired werewolf type thing. I don't know what the hell it was. But I was kind of like, and I was like, whoa. And I woke up, and then I thought, what in the hell did I just see? And then I sat up, and then I realized that I had just been dreaming about some gray-furred creature that was chasing me around. Not in the house that we're living in now, but like, out like on this property that I don't recognize, not our property.
Mm-hmm.
But it was chasing me around. But it was weird because it was trying to speak to me too. But it was some language that I didn't understand. And so I just kept running away from it, and it was trying to talk to me, but I could tell that it wanted to hurt me. Like if it caught me, it was going to hurt me. And so I wake up and I'm like, whoa, dude. And so this dude telling me, that he had, sorry, I didn't mean to kick your foot, but get it out of my way. And so what the hell was that? Like, I haven't dreamed about this kind of stuff in a while. And so I wondered about it. So we went out, and Tony, you weren't involved in the investigation the other night, but we went out to these places where there's been sightings of these things, right? And then I read this guy's story. Now, this is in Texas too, but it's up north Texas. Hillsboro's probably, a good hour and 45 minutes from here. It's not in this area. It's not something I'm going to go do in a nighttime investigation. But it would stand to reason. Like, he found it out in the other, out in the country, out near Hillsboro, not in Hillsboro. And we've had at least 3 reports from that Hillsboro area. One of which was from a pro wrestler, a very famous guy, and why would he lie about it?
Mm-hmm.
And one was from a trucker who almost hit one of these things. And then there was a guy who, I don't know him, but Armando did, and Armando interviewed this guy, and he was on Brenton Stallman's show. And I don't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, folks, but he saw one of these big gray werewolf-looking creatures along with his coworkers on the way to work and they were in between Waco and Hillsboro, right? So I don't know. I mean, like, could there be something to that? I mean, like, and like the dream, it was disturbing. I told Nellie, I said, I dreamed about this werewolf-like thing. And that hasn't happened in a long time. Could it be because we went over this before I went to bed, we were going over this story. We were talking about it and about this man's encounters. Or it's just this thing it's not a dream at all. This thing is a real entity, and it visited me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm not going to sit up here and say, yeah, this thing attacked me, because it didn't attack me. It tried to in a dream, and I thought I saw when I was waking up. But it was in broad daylight, which doesn't seem to matter, to some of these creatures or entities, whatever. But what happened to this guy, it went a lot deeper. Tyler, he ended up waking up to a horrific scene of this beast biting his wife's throat. And it was unaliving her. It was killing her, you know. And he was just like, what in the hell, you know? And so he freaked out. And then he said it was so real, he thought it was really happening. So he reached over and he started trying to smack it. And then he realized that he had ended up inadvertently hitting his wife, like in the stomach.
Oh,
And she woke up and like, what the hell? And when he explained to her that he was having a dream, she wasn't having it. She just thought, you're losing your mind, whatever. But luckily, well, I wouldn't say luckily, but kind of got him off the hook.
yeah.
A couple nights later, she was coming back from hanging out with some friends. And she says that she pulled into the driveway of their driveway. And she fell asleep in their Subaru. Now, I told him, I said, the Subaru is such a boring car, it will make you fall asleep. That's the truth. It's just a fact.
A lot of homeless people driving Subarus.
But I'm joking. But she pulled into the driveway and she was so tired that she couldn't even make it inside the several steps to go inside. She's like, I just had to lean my head back. That's what she told him. And she started to fall asleep. She said she barely could make it home. And that's not, I mean, it was very unusual. She's not narcoleptic, but she fell asleep. And then when she fell asleep, something came up to the car and like bumped it. Now, it didn't smack it or hit it, but it bumped into it, pushing it, whatever. And she said that it woke her up. And for a split second, she saw this thing kind of leaning over the hood. She saw the arms, and it was a grayish looking creature with a short muzzled werewolf looking head looking in at her. And she was like, when she opened her eyes wide, it was gone. So naturally, she did what any Texan would do. She started blasting, right? And the bullets were going through the windshield, and then they went inside and shot up everything inside, narrowly missing
And she pulled
the
out
occupants.
these old peacemakers.
Exactly. Which, you know. But I got a couple of those, actually. Those old antique pistols. I got a couple of them.
Yeah,
Old
those are
Navy and Colts.
Those are
and,
badass guns.
Yeah. I don't shoot them, but, you know, they're just, you know, I keep them around from the Civil War. But she's blasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm kidding. So she woke up and she screamed and she's like, and then she started honking the horn to get it off of the hood, and then it was gone. So I asked him, I said, did it slide off the hood or jump off the hood or go across the hood like the Duke boys? I mean, like, what did it do? And
It was just on the hood like, thanks for the ride, lady.
It was a creep show.
Yeah.
So it didn't stay on the hood. I mean, it vanished. What the hell? I mean, so you're sitting there and you're going like, okay, she now has had her taste of, you know, chastising him because God forbid you should punch your wife in the stomach, you know, and then they get all bent out of shape about it. I mean, every time I do that, she gets all mad.
Smurfy says she whipped out the blunderbuss.
The blunderbuss. I took care of that. Probably burned her face too.
Yes, I shall pop a cap in your anus with my blunderbuss. I shall be rolling down your neighborhood, popping caps into your homies, and you shan't do anything about it. Just soon as I load my blunderbuss here.
Once I get this thing loaded,
Wait right
you're
there.
in big trouble, chap. And then when I blow your ass, you will go to the devil.
Going to clear your whole block out.
You and your blokes, you're going to be real dead. That's all I'm going to say. My blunderbuss is going to blow your ass off. Your arse on the ground, your body in the tree. That's all I'm saying. You want that kind of smoke? I don't think you do. You're not prepared for us. Well, you thought the Decepticons are bad. Wait till you see us, what we do.
I shall smite all your homeboys.
With the blunderbuss. So we don't handle the blunderbusses. We let Tony do that. Tony's the guy who lays on the blunderbuss. He takes care of it for us. I'm just like, Tony, Carrie's bloke over here. She wants to argue with me. You don't get my scone? What do you think? I'm going to smack your face? No, he's going to blow it off. Tony, take case. and then boom. Boom. That's what happens. And then most of the time your face explodes with it. I don't even know why they even tried. But hooligans and ruffians, yes, exactly.
I'm gonna have to go around digging in the drawers for random stuff so I can fill it up again.
Just stuff, trees and
Yeah.
twigs,
Ooh, I got
acorns and
some
whatnot.
nails this time.
I got some cockroaches here. I was up there at this guy's trailer in Oklahoma hanging out. So what ends up happening with this, woman, she goes inside, she tells her husband what happened. She lays down, she's like in a daze and she's babbling. And so he freaks out and he's like, we need to take her to the hospital. So they did. She couldn't get her bearings together and she couldn't even tell him what was going on. They run tests on her. And then he's like, while I'm there, he's like, I did it too. Something's going on with us, His brother comes over. And his brother's a painter by trade or whatever. Or not a painter, a sheetrocker by trade. Guy's got his own crew, whatever. And he comes over and he tells him, he's like, hey, he sees the coin and he's attracted to it too. And he tells him, he says, dude, I like that coin. That's really pretty, whatever that is. It looks like an old coin, And he says, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. He's like, starts telling him about some of the problems he had. And his brother's like, ain't nothing going to happen. Ain't nothing going to happen with that. I don't believe that. He didn't believe him.
Yeah.
And then his brother is such a smart guy. He thinks that he's impervious to anything. He goes, I don't believe in cursed objects, blah, blah, blah. So he tells him, he's like, I would give it to you. He's like, I paid $50 for it, but I don't want something to happen to you. He's his little brother. He's a couple years older than him,
Gotta make a work call.
And so he has to. Serious? Is it serious?
No.
Okay, so anyway, he ends up giving the coin to his brother to hold, look at, whatever. And then at the last minute, he says, "You know what? Give it back. I don't want to give it to you." So his brother just looked at it like, "Oh, you're being a dickhead. You're not being cool. You're not giving me this coin because, you want to keep it." And unfortunately, he looked at it that way. Not a good thing. The next day, he wakes up. The coin is gone, and there's $50 paper clip to a piece of paper that says, "Hey, brother, here's $50 for the coin." He's like, "If you're just going to throw it out or give it whatever, I don't believe in this curses or whatever. And here's the $50."
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just, he said it was very frustrating, very aggravating. So his brother rides a motorcycle. A couple days later, his brother lays his bike down and takes off all the skin on his right leg. And then he ends up like tearing his arm backwards, tearing up all of the tendons, everything in his arm, and lucky to keep his arm from the elbow down. And totaled his bike, whatever. He had the coin on him. And when he got to the hospital, he couldn't find it. So, or coin, whatever it is, medallion, whatever it is. And that was it. It was gone. But the next night, his brother had this weird dream while he was in the hospital that the nurse that was waiting, that was helping, it was a male nurse, and that he was trying to help him. And when this male nurse turned around, it had like a wolf's head. Like it looked like a wolf. And he just was like, he was staring at it, and then he woke up and realized there was no nurse there. There was no male nurse. There was nothing. And so that was his story. That's all that happened to him. And he nearly died on his motorcycle. And by the grace of God, he lived.
I think this just goes to show you, like, why take the chance? It's been my belief that, like, why take the chance? Why, like, not believe in something? Why not be superstitious? Like, what could it hurt to be, like, to have that knowledge or, like, reassert, just, like, have that, like, caution in you? I don't understand, like, being like, oh, I understand what it is, but I just don't believe it exists. Like,
I don't care what's happened to you or your wife or the people before you and his wife. I don't care what happened to everybody that's had come in contact with it.
Yeah, it's like it's a ridiculous notion. It's like you suddenly know better.
Yeah.
It's very arrogant.
Well, here's what I did, folks. I did my due diligence, and I did not get to speak to Terrence, but Terrence did do a follow-up at my request. I told Tyler, I said, can you talk to Terrence and can you get him to talk to his father-in-law and see if he's seen anything out in that pasture? Well, guess what? He did. He saw something out in that pasture. He was out there on horseback, and his horse reared up and threw him. Horses can always tell these things. They're very astute animals. So are dogs and cats. And he said when he looked across the pasture about 40 yards from where he was at, okay, he saw what he thought was a gray creature. He could not make out what it was. He did not see features that looked wolf-like or any anything that you, in other words, he didn't see a werewolf. He just saw something, though, that was laying flat down. And he said that he was staring at it, and it was nearly dark, and he didn't get a good look at it. Like he just could, he could see it, and it looked like it had crawled and went down into the ground, and he knew that there was like a ditch right there with a very thin like hole where the earth was kind of cracked right there, and it was a drought. And so the ground was kind of cracking up, and he thought, no way that thing fit through that crack. So he got up, pulled out his rifle, and walked toward it. The horse was not having it. Horse didn't bail and go back to the stable. It just was about 20 yards the other way. And he just walked over there with his rifle. And when he got to the spot, there was nothing there. Like there was a crack in the ground, and he kind of kicked at it, but he didn't see anything. And then there was another night when he was out there with his brother. This is that guy Terrence's father-in-law and his father-in-law's brother. And they were out there on the back porch, and they were facing the pasture. And this weird ball of light or something was floating around in the vicinity of where that piece of silver was found, like bobbing around.
Do you think it was like guardian?
I don't know. But the ball of light was a unique, like violet kind of purplish color. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. Kind of like the color behind you right now. It's interesting. But yeah.
What about the color changing ball you guys saw last night?
Oh, at the cemetery?
Yeah, when it was like red or orange or something.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nellie saw it.
It was kind of in the distance, I mean, I saw it. She got a better look at it than I did. So,
I mean, like, I'm just curious because, like, I used to see, like, they would always show those on those ghost shows when I was younger, and you'd always think like, oh, okay, those are just ghosts. It's like a ball of light. It's just a ghost, and it's like how maybe like, oh, only cameras can capture it in that form, so like that's all you see. So like I never really like was that like interesting to me. And you hear stories of like in Scotland of like the will o' the wisps or like the little but then now you get stories years later where like full on entities are coming out of the balls, and like they're turning into big, like they're not just little tiny ghosts anymore, like they're full on becoming like shuttles, it seems like. And it's just like, well, what happened to them kind of just floating around and being kind of harmless, like little spirits or whatever? And it just, that's why it's kind of like confusing to me, because it's like it's once again what we kind of think we understand just completely changes as time passes more.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, it's just, I think we've got to start working together to figure something out, because it's going to pass us by quickly if we don't pay attention.
I don't know. So give me y'all's opinion, in the chat. We have, 627, almost 630 people in the chat. Give me your opinion. What do you think? I mean, about this last situation there. I'm sorry about that, Mickey. We need to pray for Mickey. She had a massive infection and from a dental visit. Are you doing better? Or are you still hurting? Mystical Wonderland says cursed. I definitely believe that. I believe that this thing was absolutely cursed. I mean, because it was going from person to person, maybe even including me. I don't know. Well, Dragon Paw, I agree with that statement. Patrick Appleseed says, I don't understand how the likes do not match like live viewing. I don't either. Don't.
It's always like half. Seems like, you know.
You have to have more done this week, Mickey. We pray for you. Everybody pray for Mickey G to make it through and feel better. Bill Hope, that's a very, the fact that was the last story that I had gone over with Anthony, you know, that we were going to tell tonight. And then I have this nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have it the first 4 hours that I was asleep. It was when I went back to sleep, and then it was that little short nap kind of whatever. Yeah, if you haven't hit the like button, folks, please go back and hit the like button for us. It really helps.
Yeah, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, please. I wish more people would just be courteous enough to hit the like button. That'd be great.
You know, like we don't.
I always do when I watch people's stuff.
You know, we know everybody can't donate. You know, times are getting a little bit rougher, money, and especially with this election coming up, people are holding money, not knowing how it's going to end up. So we understand, but like hitting the like button is a simple thing you guys can do to help us out. It costs nothing. Yeah, Kyle, I don't know why YouTube does that.
Audacious Amber says if they don't have an account, they can't hit the like button. How do they get on YouTube if you don't have an account? You have to have an account to get on YouTube to watch.
I don't think you have to have an account, but
I think you do. How do you watch YouTube without an account?
Well, you can't comment unless you have an account, I think.
I don't know. I've had one for the same one forever.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Well, maybe Amber's right. I don't know. Maybe that's what that is. But yeah, I don't know. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to start doing more of these impromptu, and then we're going to start getting more organized and planning them to go out and do these investigations so that you can check out some of these places where these things happen. Okay. Because my fear of being out, and there is no more fear. I've figured out, I think, as far as I can, what these things, a lot more about what these things are, and they thrive on your fear. Don't be afraid. Don't let them punk you out. Hey, can you get me one? There's only one topo in there.
Yeah. Okay.
You grab it. They got less in the RAM. The wind was so bad today that I couldn't drive the smaller truck. I had to drive the bigger one. And now that we're on a ranch, we do need the vehicles. Everybody's like, you don't need 2 trucks. I have 3. And you got to have them because you need them to move stuff, haul stuff. And it's a big damn hassle if you don't have it. Believe me. Yeah, we traded in one of our vehicles for that Ram that they had it listed down in Houston with the wrong mileage. And they didn't know what they had. The dealership there did not have trucks. They didn't know what they were doing. The people who listed it. And they thought it wasn't running well. Well, that was because they had tires that were off-road tires that were all wore out.
Those tires made it right rough.
They set road rough. But I told Nellie and Anthony when we drove it, I was like, there's nothing wrong with this vehicle. All we need to do is put some tires on it. We did. Runs great. And ended up with a vehicle that's worth about 10 grand more than what we paid. We have a lot of equity in that vehicle. You gotta be smart about things. Folks, you'll be better off having stuff, assets, than you will money. Because after this election, especially if it goes one way, either way it goes, but there's one way it goes that the economy is going to collapse. And you'd better have, well, some people are like, oh, let's take all our money out of the stock market. Yeah, probably a good idea. But then also just having cash ain't going to get you through because that cash ain't going to be worth cash. So in other words, like if you buy a vehicle and you owe 15 grand on that vehicle, you're doing better to have that or a house that you owe money on because that vehicle is now going to be worth like 40 grand. And so you're only going to owe 15 on it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So buy assets, buy things that are worth something, gold, silver. You'd be better off having this gold chain than regular money. I'm not joking. And I'm telling you, everything that I see, Cowboy knows, everything that I've been saying on here, thank you, Sailor, for that donation, is the absolute truth. I told you that gold was going to skyrocket. It did. I told you that NVIDIA was going to go up. It did. Bitcoin is volatile. Here's what I predict for Bitcoin or crypto in general. I think crypto will bottom down a little more. I'm waiting for that to happen. That's when you jump on it and you buy as much as you can if you have the money. Okay? And then it's going to shoot back up and it's not going to look back.
Mm-hmm.
So trust me.
Yeah, I don't think crypto's going anywhere for a long time.
And if a certain person who talks like this and lies, then please.
That was ear piercing.
Yeah, well, that's how she sounds to me. And says, you know, what everybody wants to hear. Hey, my dad was a Marxist. Let me tell you something. If she wins, take your money out of the stock market. I am. Because it's going to bottom out. But there are some stocks that aren't going to be affected. And we don't want to get too far into it, but I may talk about it on Rumble. And, you know, we just got to keep moving forward. Forward is better than backwards because backwards is the opposite of forward, and forward is where you need to go to get to somewhere that's not backwards.
Wow. I didn't know she was a scientist.
Today is tomorrow's yesterday's day, and tomorrow and the day of the St. Smithens is dude, what the who is excited about this? Like these people, go get your mind. And I don't care if you leave and don't listen to me. Please go away. If you're that god dang stupid, holy shit, man.
At this point, yeah.
Conspiracy theory. Yeah. You mean the truth? Boy, we're in trouble, folks. We are. This is, you know, let me tell you something. This is the last show we'll be doing before the election. I had a couple people who quit talking to me because of it.
Good.
You know, I that's fine. Don't talk to me. I mean, you know, if you're that damn ignorant. One guy who I thought was my friend, but he chose politics. And we know the one little fat troll, that little fat boy who started crap with me a few months back. I see him around lately on shows and stuff. Guy's full of shit, folks. Okay. I'm not even gonna say his name. And then there's another one who I used to be friends with, but they quit talking to me because I don't want to be communist and homeless. So What episode where I made fun of David Weatherly? I never made fun of David Weatherly. The hell you talking about, dude?
Huh?
Oh, are you trolling us, Dave? David Weatherly's a very dear friend of mine. I've never made fun of him. Well, there's just certain people I don't, like Pon Pissler, Pon Trickler, and Con Curfy. I don't talk to those two fuckers anymore. Pardon my French. Will never, ever, ever talk to them again or work with them. Got my word on that. And if you want to come at me and start talking about politics, dude, I will bury you mentally. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't start. If you have that view, you can prove absolutely nothing about the economy. You don't know how economics, I swear, I promise you, you do not know how economics works. Or you just don't care. You're so ate up with this social bullshit that you do not understand. Folks, when the economy crashes, you're not going to have money. There's going to be money's not going to be worth anything. You're not going to have food. There's going to be people who invested in gold and silver and crypto, and then those that didn't. And if you're in that other camp, well, I'm sorry for you. Because you were too worried about people being able to choose a gender. They couldn't make up their damn mind whether they had a pee-pee or a vagina.
So you care about that when you're starving.
They're so full of shit.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat the same rant I went on whenever the mic was muted, but that's basically what I was saying, that all the social issue crap means nothing if you're broke and poor and can't make money, you can't pay your bills, can't make ends meet. It doesn't. What does it matter at that point? Like how strongly you believe that
This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna kill the stream right now. I'm gonna go to Rumble for an hour.
Okay.
And I will lay it out there. If you want to go. If you're one of those people who can't decide whether you need to pee standing up or not, then fuck off. Don't come. I'm gonna be like Harrison Ford when Sacha Baron Cohen tried to troll him. Fuck off. Just walk out. Oh, yes, I'm not gonna troll that guy. Yeah, go eat shit. You're not gonna do it. All right, I'll lay it out there for you. Because I promise you, if you're on that side, you don't know economics at all. 100% you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a realist and I'm looking at things common sense. So we're going to jump off here. Thank you, everybody. Rumble link. They said Rumble link. Well, we're just go to Rumble. You'll find us.
We don't have it yet because the stream's not up yet on Rumble.
Go
But
to Rumble
yeah,
and just go in there and
you just got to go to Rumble and you type in Paranormal Roundtable in the search bar. You'll find our channel.
Bye, Mickey. We'll pray for you. Okay. And if you're offended and you want to believe that I will explain a lot of these issues. Very simple. This is not rocket science, people. It's easy. If you're on the fence, listen to what I'm going to tell you. Open your ears. Okay? What I've been saying all these years about all this other shit, I've been correct. Why would I be wrong about this? Let the fools be fools. All right? I'm going to end the stream. Thank you, guys. We'll see you at Rumble. Hope everybody had a good time. Thank you to everybody who donated.